Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I pay homage to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and paying respect to the Bada Bantaji and Kasava Bantaji and here Buddha Datta Bantaji and all other Bhikkhu Sangha here. And then Samanara, Anagarika and Upasaka and Upasika and then the Upasaka who are joining the Comprehensive Buddhism course through online. So now I request all the Upasaka and Upasika and especially Pankajji to guide the Tisarana and Panchashila formalities.
Thank you very much, Bhante. Again, welcome all to Comprehensive Course on Buddhism. Today is week 10, session 2. Our teacher today is Venerable Bhante Buddha Datta, and the topic is the 5 hindrances to mental development and refinement of the mind. As usual, we will start the session by requesting for forgiveness. Shamayachana. I request all the participants to please fold your hands and join me in requesting the yachana. Okasa vandami bhante dvaratayena maya kattam sabba paradham khamatu me bhante. Dutiyam piyokasa vandami bhante dvaratayena maya kattam sabba paradham khamatu me bhante. Tatiyam piyokasa vandami bhante dvaratayena maya kattam sabba paradham khamatu me bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Bhante. I welcome all to the comprehensive course on Buddhism. Today is week 10 and session 2. We are continuing with our main topic, the way to a fortunate rebirth. And this week, today's topic will be the last topic on this main topic. And we will be covering the 5 hindrances to mental development and refinement of the mind. Our teacher today is Venerable Bhikkhu Buddha Datta.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, homage to the Perfect One, homage to the Supremely Awakened One, homage to the noble teachings, which is excellent in the beginning, excellent in the middle, and excellent at the end. Homage to the holy order of the enlightened disciple of the Lord, and homage to Bada Bhante, our most respected and beloved teacher, and salutation to our abbot, Kasava Bhante, and the Bhikkhu Sangha here, dear venerable monks and Dhamma friends. As the Buddha said in one of the very interesting sutta from the Anguttara Nikaya, he says, Pabasara idang bhikkhave chittang tancha agantukehi sankilitehi kilitanti. That means the mind by nature is luminous, radiant, but this mind lost its luminosity when it just by the influence of the defilements of the mental hindrances. And today we are discussing, our theme of the today's topic is the mental hindrances and how to overcome those mental hindrances so that one can refine its mind, one's own mind. Actually, so far we are now in the 20th lessons during this Vasa. 10 weeks, 20 lessons. Many things have been learned, many things have been discussed from the beginning of different facets of Dhamma has been, put in front of you from the different Dhamma teachers, but the Dhamma is the same. We started with the Buddha, the heart of Buddha's teaching. Then we also start with Sada, how to develop that faith in the triple gem, the nature of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Then in that, we also moved towards Dana, Sila, and Bhavana, the basis of merits for everyday life. And during our course, you also learned other aspects of Dhamma as well from different suttas. The disciplines like the Silapa, especially concerning with the lay people, how they should observe the Uposatha, how to be a faithful man or faithful woman, how to live harmoniously in the family, a family man's happiness, the duties of husband and wife, and so on. Okay, but today we are actually approaching a very important topic called mental development. So far, we have not touched that point. We will go to that interesting part, which is called samadhi. When it comes to mental development, then it becomes a bhavana. But before going to that important aspects, which is the samadhi part, we actually should know the mental hindrances that will come on the way, which becomes an hindrance, which actually blocks our road to progress. In the Buddha's teaching, the highest goal in Buddhism is the unshakable deliverance. Unshakable deliverance of mind. That is the highest goal of Buddhist or the seekers of truth, any spiritual truth seeker for that instance. Now here, when I say the highest deliverance, the deliverance from what? Deliverance from the mental defilements, deliverance from fetus, deliverance from the limitation of the mind, because these limitations that binds our mind into the wheels of samsara, into this recurring existence of birth, death, and rebirth. That's why our topic today is Nivarana. Nivarana means Nivareti iti Nivarana, that which hinders, that which obstructs, that which becomes an impediment on the onward progress. Why it is called Nivarana? Because it just obstructs our bhavana, our mental culture. And these mental hindrance is actually not only harmful to our concentration, but even from ordinary in our day-to-day life, if we come across that, how due to the influence of these hindrances, we actually neglect what we should do. We actually neglect our good, and we do what should not be done. You understand that point? Because of the influence of this Nivarana, we neglect what ought to be done, and we do unnecessary, unwholesome things. Now, if you think that it is sufficient for you to suppress these nivaranas only when you are sitting on that cushion right there. You are sitting in a meditation and you think, well, I can easily overcome these hindrances. Actually, that doesn't work. You have to have effort, sustained effort. You have to continuously deal with these hindrances, the mental enemies. Hindrances are so to call, they are like the world champions. They're like our opponents. When you are entering into the field, then you have to fire out your opponents. But these hindrances are very strong enemies for our mental development. We actually have to strengthen our mind. If you wish to overcome the nivaranas, you have to strengthen your inner qualities. Otherwise, you cannot deal with, you cannot face these, sufficiently, these strong enough defilements. Now, that's what I say, that you have to work on this. You have to make your everyday life as your working ground. You have to work very diligently if you really want your progress. Now, when I say that hindrances, and the Buddha said in one of the very interesting sutta from Anguttara Nikaya, and he says that there are 5 things that actually hinders or deprives our strength, our mental strength. That becomes an impediment. 5 things. What are they? They are these 5 nivaranas. And again he says, just like there are the 5 impurities of gold. Say we have very precious object, gold or diamond. It has also some sort of dust or impurities. Now, what are they? Like iron, copper, or tin, or lead, or even silver. They just cover that gold, and by that, this gold loses its brightness, its radiance. So, how do one, then we have to brush up, we have to clean and remove those impurities. Then only that gold will shine again. Then only it has that, radiance. So, if this gold is free from all these impurities, then it's come back to its natural, state. Similarly, if mind is free from all these mental hindrances, then our mind by nature, it gains its luminosity. It's radiant all the time. Now, beings actually in the world overwhelmed by these defilements or so-called hindrances. Hindrances are actually their coarse, very coarse kind of defilements. They're not subtle ones, but they are gross defilements. As I said, why people, they engaged in all sort of unwholesome things? By the influence of sensual pleasures, by the influence of sense desire, they neglect what they ought to be done, and by that, all their good name and all their happiness will just ruin. You can see in our world how people, by the sheer influence of sense pleasures, or we call him in Pali Kamachanda. So Kamachanda is the very first hindrance. Now Buddha says the Kamachanda is just like a plain water. For instance, a plain water by nature is very clear. But when one, puts and add different types of colors, then the water becomes colorful. Different varieties of dye one uses, and then it becomes red or yellow or green and so forth. Now, because of looking at all the sense impression through the sense doors, and minds get colored. The minds, sometimes it becomes happy. You know, colored means it colored with different kinds of moods, different kinds of impressions, different kinds of mental states, and you'll have a lot of akushala chittas. Akushala chitta, when I say, which is driven by greed. And then when one driven by greed, then he had to do some action. Then in his actions, not kushala at all. His action is no more good action. So they neglected, they forgot. Even though we want, even though we wish to actually do good, nobody want to commit any unwholesome things. Everybody wish to do good and be good, but they forget themselves. Similarly, ill will, we have another very powerful hindrance, we call it as Vyapada in Pali. Vyapada is even very strong. Now, when I say what is the simile, the example is that, let's say the boiling water. Water is boiling, and one want to see his face in that boiling water. Do you think that would that person be able to see his own face, own reflection in that water? It's not possible, because the water is completely boiling. Similarly, Vyapada, when hatred arises, ill will arises in the mind, we lose our control. The mind is constantly boiling with anger. You see, and with that boiling anger, we just throw out and those anger on somebody, and by that way we spread that angry mood everywhere. Now, this is very practical, and if we see where is the root right there is lying in the mind. So this mind has to be refined. Now we are discussing mental hindrances and refinement of mind, right? First, we should know and observe where does these hindrances arises. What is the root? What is the cause? Then we should apply some positive antidotes with respect to removal of that hindrances. So that is the example the Buddha had given, and how with boiling water, a person cannot see his own reflection. That's why the mind has to be settled down. If mind is calm, mind is benevolent, compassionate, kind, then we can see. Now, when we talk about we cannot see the reflection, we cannot see the reflection means we cannot know our own nature. We are not understanding the truth of our life. Similarly, that is how beings, they neglect their own good. They just keep on doing own sort of unnecessary and stupid things, which brings a lot of miseries. And again, by doing that, all their names and good names and happiness will come to ruin. Now, we have another very interesting example the Buddha gives here, Kamachanda Vyapada, then Thinamida. Now, in the Thinamida, it is called in Pali, sloth and torpor. Say, I'll just give an example of sloth and torpor means a kind of inactiveness, a drowsiness, a person all the time lazing around. You see, he has so many complaints. This is, don't want to, he will find out some other way, some complaints. Today is cold, I won't work. Today is very hot day, I shouldn't go and work. And you just enjoy in sleeping in drowsiness. Now, Now, Buddha gave an example of how can one overcome these sloth and torpor. Like a pot of water covered with moss and water plants. Like the water is clear, but it's covered with moss and water plants. And then a man with good eyesight, he won't see the clear water. He won't see his own reflection. Why? It's not because of the eye problem or the problem with the eyesight. Rather, the water, it contains some moss and some water plant. Something is there inside. That is the reason. If we take out those plants and the mosses which are floating on the water, then we can see our face clearly. So why we can't see? Because this sloth and torpor, actually there's just big cloud, they just cover up the mind. And by that way, we don't see clearly. If we see there are people who are day in and out, they are so lazy and so indolent. They just take delight in all sort of lazy things, but they don't know what is there in the mind. They have no idea about what kind of mind they're carrying with. But for a spiritual person, one who actually seeks for mental cultivation or mental development, he should know. You should know the balance. You should know what kind of mind. He has sloth and torpor, and it is, as I said, it is an impediment. It's an obstruction on our road, on our journey. Okay, so that is how I said, being lazy, we don't promote our own well-being and own good. And that laziness is also a factor for our own downfall. Like as I said, the gold has also, if the gold is very shining and bright, which also is subject to, lose its shining because of all these impurities. So sloth and torpor is impurity. We have to work hard to remove this impurity. Then we have the restlessness and remorse. Restlessness is simply called unrest mind. Why the mind becomes unrest? Because of the unwise attention. When a person doesn't give unwise attention to things, then he just nourishes and strengthens his restlessness even more. And you will not find an end to it. You just keep on nourishing and feeding his own mental hindrance. So the Buddha say, like a wind, there's a water pot and it's winding and moving and wavering all the time. Like in the ocean or the sea, then you can't see your own reflection anymore. But contrarily, if the water is still very peaceful, then you can surely see the face. See the face means see the mind. You can see your own mind clearly. So that windy water or that wavering water is nothing but compared with restlessness and remorse. So I'm just telling you the causes. Then we will also discuss about the solutions, how we can overcome them. That is a solution, no doubt. So this agitating mind is compared with restlessness. Now we have called the doubt. One more impediment is called doubt. Now, so many, if I ask you how many doubts you have, because you're having many doubts, right? Doubts about your own, first of all, doubts about yourself. Am I doing correctly or not? Is the Buddha still exist? Is the Buddha is enlightened one? Dhamma or Sangha? Then you may also think about the conditionality, the law of paticca-samuppada. So all these ways one just proliferates one doubts. So a person who is having that doubt, and the Buddha said that he will never be access to the reality. One will never be purified. One actually have to find a way, find a suitable means, a proper path to walk. Now, the interesting simile is that a pot of water, and which is stirred up, and muddy water, and placed in somewhere in the corner, muddy water, not clear. Now, if somebody wants to see his own face in that muddy water, do you think it's easier? Or can that person would able to see his own face? Because his mind is unclear. Why unclear? Because of his own doubts. So he could not properly recognize and see the image of his own. Similarly, when a man or woman or anyone, a monk or any practitioner, if his mind is possessed by doubt and he cannot properly see the way out of this doubt, one cannot see the escape from this doubt, and he will just keep on, doing the things which are to be done and neglect those things which should be done. But he will not in that way. He will just keep on doing the unworthy, unwholesome, unbeneficial things. So these are the examples which I gave you from the commentaries, and we have even one more very interesting examples of all these 5 hindrances. Now, say one who is everybody of us, no doubt, as I said, we have to overcome this. And if you want to have a strong body, you have to overcome your elements, you have to strengthen yourself, you have to do regular exercise, you have to have a good plan, a diet plan, and so forth. You know how well you take care of the body. But actually, we seldom reflect on this fact, this aspect of purifying or nourishing our own mind. Now, Buddha said that one who is in debt, for example, a man who has incurred debt, and he has seen ruined because of his debt, and he couldn't able to return his the money to the master. Similarly, the first example is that beings are enveloped in this sensual desire that they can go up to any extreme. So just compare with a man who is indebted. And due to the sensual pleasures, even he's spoken roughly or harassed or beaten, he will bear it all. He will accept it because of that sense pleasure. So one who is free from these sensual pleasures, he is no more in debt actually. So what is that which causes for this? The debt is our own. The first factor is called the sensual pleasures. Then the next example is that, imagine a man who is having very serious disease. And if you give him the choicest food, the best food, or honey or sugar or anything, that man, he will not taste it anything. For him, it is all, he'll say, oh, no, tasty, this is not good. Right? He will just vomit it and complaining it is bitter or it is salty, like that. Similarly, one person which is anger temperament, if you give him this choice, this best Dhamma gift, but he will say no, he will not accept it. If you give him honey, sugar, he will not accept. If you give some bitter things, he will appreciate it. You know, like in the world, people don't want to come to the vihara. If you just play some music and some sort of sports where they can find the entertainment, there where they can just show off their own, you know, temperament or what to say. They just want to be there. But why? Because of that, because of the anger itself, they will not able to taste the Dhamma. You see? So in one who want to enjoy the taste of the Buddha's teaching, Buddha's dispensation, actually, they should give up the anger. How one can taste the Dhamma? When you give up the anger, you have the universal love, the metta with you, and you grow in samadhi, grow in concentration, and you gain the insight. You have the more higher and superior kind of bliss. That is how you enjoy the Buddha's dispensation. Now, another example is that skeptical, sloth, and torpor. One person who is imprisoned in the jail. And even though there's very nice festival going on all around, and that man, because of his own laziness, he will not appreciate anything. Imagine now you are all listening here, how interesting the Dhamma may be, how profound may be, and how interesting with the good similes I'm giving you. But if you are not listening, if you are lazy, you are not active, you are not alert, then I would say surely that you will not even appreciate, or you will say, oh, how good the teaching, how nicely it is presented to you. You won't appreciate it because you didn't listen to anything. So if I ask any questions, you can't answer me. Will you? Will you hear? How many of you can answer me? Because your mind is actually just overpowered by this sloth and torpor. Sloth means one who walks very slowly, very, very slowly. He's slow in doing merits. He's slow in cultivation. He's slow in his mental development, and forget about the higher stages of spirituality. Okay, so the example is given here. This, for example, somebody who, like I gave you this example of Dhamma. The Dhamma festival, the consummation of Dhamma, one who listens it, one who delights in it, one who gives his own thoughts on that, contemplation on that, then he will find the delight. Otherwise, no. Otherwise, just sitting there physically, but you're not really listening to me. So, Buddha says you will not find a delight in the consummation of Dhamma. Similarly, we have doubts and remorse. Another way of putting it is, before that, restlessness, udacha and kukucha, restless and worry. For example, a man who wants to enjoy himself in a festival, but at the same time, he wanted to enjoy. And due to his own work and his obligations, his master says, hey, my good man, you go to this and this place and achieve this task by evening. He would give him a very difficult task. And if you can't fulfill this, then I will cut off your limbs. Even I'll give you, I'll put you to death. That man, even though he has a wish to enjoy that festival, but he is slave. He's enslaved by his own restlessness. He will be constantly thinking, well, I should have gone there. I want to be part of that festival. I want to enjoy it. But he is helpless. So, similarly, if one who is not able to enjoy the happiness of solitude, happiness of viveka, happiness of solitude, happiness of being alone and enjoying that upasama state, the state of peace, then actually why it's happened? Because of he is overcome by that restlessness and worry. He's constantly worry and his mind is wavering all the time. Very restless mind. So if you want to enjoy this Dhamma, then you have to actually overcome this restlessness and worry. The final one is the doubt. Doubt, as I said, a person who is a traveler who is traveling through a desert, and he is aware and that maybe plunderers or robbers they may just attack me and kill me on the way. But with that doubt, he has not seen the robbers, or he has not that confident in him that he could actually travel this path and go to a safer place. But while he is traveling, if he hears a very little bit sound of any birds or any twigs or anything, he will suddenly, out of fear, he will stop there. And he will continue in such a manner all the way, with full of fear, with full of doubt, or he will just stop there and turn back. So sometimes he may reach the destination with difficulty, with his hard toiling and hard work, he may still able to reach. Sometimes he may not reach there. Now, why it is so? In the Dhamma path also, when one has doubting about the training, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, about the path itself, doubting about the past, future, or present, or even the conditionality, the Paticca Samuppada, then he, like that traveler in the desert, he wouldn't be able to complete his journey. He will not be able to reach his final destination. He may have to stop, or he will discontinue his path, or at times he may just have to, give up his own practice. So with that lack of decision or with anxiety, he creates an obstacle for himself on this path. So doubt is an obstacle on this path. Just now, as we discussed, how doubt? If a person have conviction, he knows clearly the path, he knows what he has to do for himself, what are the cultivations you have to fulfill, how he should go about in a very, as the Buddha has already taught us, as per the Buddha's teachings, then there is no doubt in his heart. So he will reach directly. He will not have any problem on the way. So these are all the different aspects of mental hindrances which I just narrated to you from different sources. Now, you may find there are many interesting suttas from the Pitaka, from Sutta Pitaka, and also commentaries, especially Anguttara and Sangyutta Nikaya, which deal with these nivaranas. Now, how to overcome it? I just spoke to you that mind needs to be refined. Mind won't be possible simply by intellectualizing or thinking about all these nivaranas. Yes, nivaranas are there. When I told you, just meditate. If you just close your eyes for some time, and in that short span of time, you might have come across so many hindrances in the mind. All the 5. Some of you may have some kind of thoughts, you see, distracting thoughts. Some of you may have doubt or restlessness or even anger and so on. Now, to overcome these impediments, the first thing I talked about the sensual pleasure. Then here, one has to learn how to meditate on the impurities, impure objects. One has to take off and any loathsome objects which actually divert one's attention. One should not give importance to signs of wholesome things, good things always. When one pays unwise attention to these things, then his on arising sensual pleasures arises, and whatever already arising is become again stimulated, and then forget about how he can conquer or conquest these sensual pleasures. So I want to start with contemplating some Asava Kamatthana, the meditation, and also one has to guard over the senses. Indriya Sanyama, one has to put a sentry, put a check on the each and every 6 sense spaces. Because these are the bases, Chakhu, Sota, Ghana, Jiva, and Kaya. They are the check post, or they are the points where these sense impressions, they take place. If you are aware, if you are mindful, then that comes again the mindful factors. Again, the factors of enlightenment, sati comes there. We have sati is very important, and sati as a factor of spiritual faculty, sati as also a factor of enlightenment. When you apply the mindfulness, then you'll have control over your senses. Not only that, one should have actually moderation in eating and associating with noble friends, good friendship, and suitable conversation. These are the way the Buddha's teaching is so practical, that how our mind gets tempted by these ways. As I told you in the very beginning, with our day-to-day life, we have to be mindful enough to restrain our sense faculties, and then we have to be wise with eating, and then make good friendship. The good friends who can just guide you correctly, who knows how to overcome these obstacles. And the suitable conversation. We have for the ill will, Pankaj, I will take 5 more minutes.
Yes, Bhante.
Yeah. Okay. So ill will, as I said, what is ill will is just like boiling water. So, and by doing that, and when actually catch hold of a charcoal, say one who is, constantly tortured by this ill will, very strong anger or ill will in his mind, what it does is just before he harming himself, he would just catch hold that charcoal and throw out somebody. So by our own anger, we actually destroy our mental peace. But how to combat them? How to use the positive forces here? The Buddha said one actually have to apply the meditation on metta. Metta, which nullify the anger, and it also makes the mind more loving. When you generate loving kindness, the ill will disappears. You can also bring about compassion. Compassion removes cruelty. You can bring the cultivation of sympathetic joy. It removes jealousy. Jealousy can be a factor for stimulating our anger. And also altruistic joy, upekha. These are the things which apply to remove the anger, and it disappears. Again, when one has to think about karma also, contemplating one's own karma. We always try to judge and justify that because of somebody else, I am in this position. or we feel anger comparing with others. The fact is that when you are all the time blaming others, then you will not find any solution to it. Your anger will just keep on growing and growing and increasing. The best way is you cannot do anything to that person, or not that person will do anything to you. Neither he can take your virtue or the good things you have done. So all the good qualities which you possess, what we are now in the present, is because of our own actions, and will go hence with us. Wherever we go, these good actions will follow us. So that way, when you don't accept anybody's gift, for example, somebody comes to your house and or you visit someone, and those people, they treated you nicely with so many gifts, and you don't accept it. When you don't accept those gifts, then it belongs to them. It's no more here, no more yours. Similarly, anger, when you don't allow it, when you stop it from arising, by using this reflection on karma, is really very helpful practice. Surely noble friendship also necessary, good friends, and suitable conversation again. Compared to, you also have to use sometimes the higher spiritual qualities, not only in physical sense or something externally. It also helps to support. For example, you associate with good friends, or you speak about nice thing always. You don't think about, well, how we should plunder somebody's property, how we should make a plan to kill someone or steal someone's property. All the time in outside world, there are a lot of these talks, not suitable, very unsuitable talks, and that gives rise to anger. But most importantly, one has to apply the spiritual quality of faith and piti, rapture, and equanimity also very helpful. One has to maintain an equanimous state, upekha, as and factors of enlightenment that will stop, or that will help us to negate the influence of ill will, and it just disappears. We have the number 3 is laziness, as I told you. How to remove that laziness? The laziness comes from overeating. One who doesn't know the quantity, the amount of, or have no restraint on food, they are just like, you see, they just live to eat all the time. Their purpose is to just go on and gobbling. They will run after the food. And that is how they, develop laziness. When we talk about dharma or practice, they will not be successful. Then when you are lazy in meditation, you actually have to change your postures, and the perception of light also helpful. And you can just go to open air. In meditation, when you are in open air, then you don't feel lazy. When you are perceiving a light, when your laziness comes, you just remember or look at some bright thing. With that perception of light, you may able to overcome your laziness. And one just have to get up and rub his own eyes and walk around, walk up and down, just to give rise to that energy. Then we have called noble friendship and suitable conversation is also very important. Let's talk about one more thing is there are some people actually, even though we met this precious Dhamma, we have the Buddha's teachings and the Dhamma, we are all healthy now, we are not sick, or we are not even having any scarcity with anything. at this time. When you contemplate on those factors also, it gives a sense of urgency that how can I be lazy? How can I just spend my time idle, not doing anything? We have the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. We have the previous teachings. We have enough things for a smooth and comfortable practice. Those things helps us also to overcome laziness and also the collection of impermanence, the collection of death, also helpful. Okay, now we have one more is how to overcome this restlessness. Now for the restlessness mind, he has to have the factors of concentration very helpful. When I actually do mindfulness meditation, it's very helpful. Or one has to learn the knowledge of Buddhist scriptures more, asking questions about them. Because one person who is restless, that means he is inquisitive. He wants to know more things. So naturally, he should ask more and more questions to remove his restlessness, his worry. And associating with wise people, with who are mature in age, who has experience, and who possess dignity, you see, integrity, and they are restrained and calm. When you approach to those people, naturally, we have that blessings. For example, you are restless and you visit the vihara and you associate with the monks, then you find, unbelievably, you find your mind suddenly becomes calm. Could be at home, it is very agitated, restless. But when you visit such a place with good friends, with noble friends, and with listening to the Dhamma, asking about questions on the Dhamma, this will help us. We have the last one is called doubt. Now, as I said, doubt is an obstacle on the path, but we should know what are the ways we can abandon this doubt. One is that we should have more conviction. We should develop that faculty of saddha. Like in the laziness, we have to develop virya, more effort. Effort can just take away your laziness. You can remove easily with the right amount of effort, with exertion. Similarly, with saddha, with conviction in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, one can easily overcome his doubt. That means you have to know more about the Buddha. You just contemplate on Buddha's qualities, contemplate on Dhamma qualities and Sangha qualities. The more you know the Dhamma, the more you know the Buddha, then you become open to the truth. Then you realize the qualities of the Dhamma within yourself. And having done that, you will see you don't have that doubt anymore. You don't have doubt about the path, doubt about the karma, and so on. So develop the qualities of saddha that will really help us to overcome these impediments of vichikicha. In Pali, it is called vichikicha, doubt. So in this removing the vichikicha, the wisdom is very important. When we have the faculty of wisdom, or in another sense, we can say the investigation of reality. When you investigate the Dhamma, Dhamma Vichaya in Pali called Dhamma Vichaya, then all these doubts and indecisions and perplexity and so many confusions all will disappear. You will easily break this barrier of all the doubt which himself built. Why we put up that wall? Because of our own doubt. When you're doubting about the teacher himself, when you're doubting about the path and the holy order or the sangha, then that person is just like a aimless and helplessly just a wandering, aimless wanderer. and nobody will can give us any safe, secure place for him. So to reach that ultimate goal of liberation, we would have to face these hurdles on the way. Nivarana, you have to remove it one stage. Then you go further, you have to remove the defilements, subtler defilements. Then you go further to one more stage called Sanyojana, the fetus. There are 10 types of fetus are there. So you have to remove those as well. Now, having said that, the thing is, the final stage, until a person becomes Sotapanna, he will not able to remove totally all these. In few of the Nivaranas, the Sotapanna he removes, and the path of Arahantship, one can so till we reach the Arahantship, then the essential, the first Kamachanda and the subsequently the path of non-returner, the first Kamachanda is removed by the Arahant himself when he severs and destroy all the cravings. And we have the ill will. Vyapada will be destroyed by a anagami, a non-returner. And again, we have the Thinamida. The Thinamida is totally destroyed by the Arhat, unless and until we reach the Arahantship. Still there, it will be there. Thinamida is still there. Because Arahant, they are totally awakened. For them, they removes completely this Thinamida. And for the restlessness, also, Uddhacha and Kukucha, also this is the path of Arahantship. And finally, but the doubt, when I talk about Vichikicha, Sotapannas, they are totally remove this Vichikicha. They don't have absolutely no doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, or about their own practice, the path of practice. They are very sure that this is the path to awakening. This is the path to enlightenment. For the Sotapanna mind, there is absolutely no doubt, no vichikicha. So, like what this Radhana Sutta also says, Sakkaya Ditti, Vichikicha, Silabhata Paramasa. These three, the Sotapannas, they removed it totally. Okay, we have so far discussed what is Nivarana, what are the influence of Nivarana in our daily life. Then we saw with similes, we analyzes what is mental hindrances, why one should need to improve one's own mind, how one should prepare oneself to face these mental enemies. And then we also discussed about the different ways, different antidotes one has to apply to face these nivaranas. And finally, how until the paths and fruits, the ultimate paths and fruits of Sotapanna, Sakdagami, Anagami, Arahant, how one can, in the stages, how one removes all the nivaranas, and finally one gets the liberation, the final state of enlightenment. So with this, I will conclude here today, and we will now, may you all be well and happy. May the blessings of Buddha Dhamma Sangha, blessings of Bharabante and our abbot and all the Bhikkhu Sangha surround your life with wisdom and well-being. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much, Bante, for a great Dhammadana today, for your great discourse, Bante. Bante, I know we are running short, and today are very short on the time, Bante. But if you allow me, I wanted to take at least a couple of questions, Bante.
Yes, Pankaji.
And there I'll take just a couple of questions. The first one is how to investigate the Dhamma. How should we go about it?
First you have to learn the Dhamma properly from the teachers. When you learn the Dhamma and then contemplate on it, then that investigation starts within yourself. Unless you would know the teachings, the Dhamma, and how we are going to investigate it. And the investigation of Dhamma, it should be done within yourself. You cannot see the Dhamma outside. The Dhamma is right there in your heart. When you look into the realities of life, the realities are there in front of you. When you just see the Dhamma is manifesting naturally, then the investigation is just become bare, it's natural. So investigating the truths, that is the Dhamma Vichaya in calling Pali. Yes, Pankaji.
Thank you very much, Bhante. Bhante, one more. This is coming from one of the participants. I will read the question to you, Bhante. I do my sincere efforts to meditate, to pursue mental relaxation, to get clarity and focus. But in result, in reliving traumatic memory of loss of close loved one. What type of nivarna am I experiencing? How should I prepare myself to overcome it?
Oh, that means I didn't get the question clearly. Okay, I can read it.
Yes, Bhante.
Okay.
This is a question from at 11:52, Bhante.
Okay, traumatic memory of loss of close and loved one. Yeah, that means you are going through a worry. You are entering into a state of worry or stress or depression, so to say. So, as I told you, when this kind of thing is there, you have to develop more confidence within yourself, because Uddacha and Kukucha, and you have to do a lot of Buddhanusati, reflections on the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Also, you have to bring the factors of Saddha, because Saddha is the very first factor of 7 enlightenment. Among the 7, Saddha is the very first, and Saddha is also the Indriya. When you have more confidence, then you'll overcome this state of worrying. Also, you have to bring about the factors of also sati, and more efforts. You need more efforts and wisdom to pass through and to overcome your mental condition.
Thank you very much, Bhante. I can take one more, Bhante.
Yes.
Is Panchabala a tool to be used against 5 nivarnas, Bhante?
Yes. What type of, what's that question, Pankaji? The tools.
A Panchabala to use, can we use it as a tool?
Yes, of course, Panchabala, yeah, that they are called the spiritual faculties. They're the mental powers, Saddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, and Panya. Saddha is the faculty of faith, Virya, as I said, the faculty of energy or effort, and then Sati, mindfulness, and Samadhi, concentration and wisdom. They are not simply as ordinary power. They are actually very special powers, the powers which we generated through our practice. Now, for a normal person, Saddha may be very secure, very not very strong. But when you talk about the factors of enlightenment, it is very strong and powerful spiritual faculties. I will share these notes with you in the group, and you also the references book also have been given to you. You please read your syllabus book, and meanwhile I will share the notes also.
Thank you very much, Bhante. Thank you very much, Bhante.
So we conclude here today. Any other? Yes, Pankajji. We have a nice session. Thank you for your presence and coordinating very nicely, Pankajji.
Sadhu, Bhante. Thank you very much for the great discourse today, Bhante, and we are grateful to you for this opportunity, and we are grateful for the Dhammodana, Bhante. We have today.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.